All right, Byte Wellness family, welcome back to another Byte Wellness Wednesday. Here we are. We are living it up in this 2022, and we're just coming off our really incredible Byte Wellness New Year, New Moves challenge, our workout challenge, where we broke down how exactly you can get to. Uh, 1 minute of daily exercise a day. And our goal was to build up the habit, simply build the habit of moving every day, and then eventually to actually um, do just that, to move every day for longer periods of time. And so we went through this framework of uh, 4 steps, which are really helpful for building wellness habits, taking your goals from just intention to actual change. And those 4 steps, believe it or not, are really useful when we're talking about reaching any wellness goal. So you can apply those 4 steps to other activities, not just working out every day. Talk about eating, talk about exercise, talk about meditation, sleep management, stress management, and getting enough sleep. Um, Talk about cutting back on substances, even substances like cigarettes, alcohol. So many of us came off a dry January in an effort to cut back on alcohol. So stay tuned this month. We're going to break down how exactly those 4 steps can be applied to a bunch of different activities. And before we do that, we got to get into our discussion question for the week. So this was texted to you on Sunday, as it usually is. And the question is, what is one wellness win that you are proud of? Here's a time you get credit for patting yourself on the back. No such thing as humility here. Say it with your chest, dust your shoulders off. You did it. Whatever it is. Did you eat more veggies this past month? Did you participate in our wellness challenge and work out every day, even if it was only for 1 minute a day? Pat yourself on the back for that. That's a win. One of our members wrote in and said her biggest wellness win was just that she didn't give up this past month. She participated in our wellness challenge or in our workout challenge, new moves, new, oh my goodness, new year, new moves challenge. And that's a big deal. Not giving up on yourself, showing up again in 2022, trying to become a better version of yourself, trying to show yourself the love that the rest of the world doesn't always show us. That, as far as I'm concerned, folks, is a win. All right. So this month, we are talking about how to take these 4 steps we talked about and really how to apply these behavior science frameworks to any wellness goal we have. How do you leverage the power of your daily habits to bring about the level of health and wellness that you want to feel the way you'd like to feel, to look the way you'd like to look, to have the risk profile, the health risk profile you'd like to have. All right, so we're breaking down the 4 steps, and the first one we're talking about this week is creating protected time to practice your wellness skills, right? That's how you build wellness habits. You have to protect your time. And so, how do we do that? This week in the daily texts, we broke down mastering the 3 B's of protecting your time. First, block out time to actually do your activity. Next is bundle You can bundle, sometimes, depending on the activity, you can bundle a bunch of work into one discrete time period, one chunk of time, and spend that time doing advanced work. We'll talk about some examples of that. Meal planning is one of them. And you can break up your time. So sometimes you don't have a big enough chunk of time to bundle, right? But what you do have, you don't have like 2 hours to spend doing meal prep at the beginning of the week, but you do have 15 minutes a day. And if you can get something done, get some meal prep done in 15 minutes a day by breaking up that big chunk of time, then you're more likely to succeed. So mastering the 3 B's is really, it's about flexibility. The first step is blocking off time, figuring out where in your day you can block off time to do these activities. And I've written out your big four here, right? So the big four activities that are so important for wellness resilience, that's eating. So eating our whole food, plant-based, plant-heavy diet, whole foods, emphasis on whole foods, okay? Movement, making sure that we live an active lifestyle filled with not just daily exercise, but also plenty of background movement. We need to get enough sleep so that we feel well rested when we wake up. We sleep for a long enough time, and we get quality sleep. Quantity and quality matters for sleep. And then there's stress management. We want to make sure that we deal with the psychological stressors we experience so they don't trigger chronic inflammation in our bodies. All right, so how would you block out time in the day to do each of these things? So eating seems kind of straightforward, right? If we're just talking about the process of eating, then we do that all the time. You block out an hour, maybe 30 minutes, noon to 12:30 for lunch, okay? And you might write, if your goal is to eat more veggies, then maybe you write on your calendar 12 to 12:30, eat a salad. You're eating salads at lunch. That's how you'll eat more veggies. That can be a goal. But then the eating task, it's not as simple as it seems, right? Because usually you have to figure out how to get the food. So you're either cooking at home, preparing the food at home from scratch, which means you are going out to the grocery store to buy all these whole foods, or you are finding time to order and have it delivered to your home. And then you are spending time preparing the food, right? The salad doesn't come out of nowhere. So if you're doing all of that, then you got to figure out when to block off time. If your goal is to eat more plants, don't just say eat more plants and block off lunch for a salad, but don't account for where the plants are going to come from. Make sure you link that salad eating block to a block of time dedicated to actually going to the store or getting online and ordering the groceries. Link that to a block of time dedicated to actually preparing it. And if you are going to purchase the salad somewhere, instead of buying the raw ingredients and making it yourself, that's okay too. But remember that you've got to block off time to go get it. Because what happens when you show up to work or to an event or wherever without the food that you need, what ends up happening? You all know. You end up in the break room, hovering over those donuts, You get into your snack drawer eating candy. Your friend lets you eat some of their lunch, and you know it's just not what you would have chosen, but you're starving. So, preparation is key, and in terms of healthy eating, and blocking off time to prepare is really important. Okay, what does it look like to block off time to increase your movement? Well, could be as simple as writing exercise in your schedule. Maybe you decide to do 30 minutes of exercise from 5 to 5:30 p.m. every day. Maybe your exercise time happens in the morning, but the key is that you block it off. If you have to go to the gym, if you have to go to some location to exercise, make sure you include your travel time. Like the what can be most disruptive to our reaching our wellness goals is not blocking off adequate time, not spending the time you need, and finding yourself strapped for time. Finding that your wellness priority is at odds with your other life priorities, picking up the kids, meeting your partner, preparing your home, finishing work, doing your hair, whatever it is. When your wellness priorities start to um, compromise other priorities in life, that's when we tend to let our wellness priorities go. We tend to drop them down on the list of priorities. And that's when we end up disappointed, not understanding how my big plans to exercise every day fell by the wayside. Why did I stop exercising every day? Well, it's because I didn't set up my schedule to allow me to exercise every day. So, you know, overlooking travel, overlooking all the extra time required to do your activity, that's one of those ways we get stuck, um, not fully prioritizing this activity, not giving it the time it needs. All right. The next activity, sleep. This one is kind of simple on the surface. Definitely easier said than done, but sleep is best in discrete chunks. Aim for your 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and certainly at least 5 at a time is what studies show is uh, more beneficial, significantly more beneficial than sub 5 hours. But look at sleep, look at your schedule. Find your 8 hours, your 9 or 7, however many you need to feel well rested in the morning, and block it off. And then maybe go ahead and block off an extra hour, half an hour before your sleep time, half an hour after. And if you've got an iPhone or an Android, there are sleep apps, native sleep apps on the iPhone for sure, that are part of your timer and your clock function that'll let you block off sleep time. And they'll notify you as you get closer to your sleep time. And then even start to change the functions of your phone so that you'll be less distracted as it gets closer to sleep time. So technology works with us here, making it a little bit easier to sleep if you let it. Stress management, maybe you want to block off time to meditate, to spend some time alone. Maybe you just decide that you need 5 minutes. You can spend a certain amount of time with the kids or working on a project, and then you just have to sit in silence for 5 minutes. As much as possible, try to block that time, add it to the schedule, and then you can plan around it. We don't want to end up missing out on all our good, healthy habits because we didn't account for them. All right, so then the second B in creating time and protecting our time for these wellness practices, second B is bundle. And this is where, if you find yourself ripping and running from one day to the next, you don't think you have time to spare most days of the week for food prep or exercise or getting an extra nap in or doing meditative exercises. If you can't find that extra time most days of the week, try to bundle the time you would have spent on each of those days into just one big activity at some point during the week. So we'll use eating as an example because this is a really great use of meal prepping. So you'll hear people say that they thought when they transitioned to plant heavy eating, as they were making changes to their diet and learning how to prepare new meals, I've heard so many people say that they thought they didn't have enough time to cook every day. What is this 1 hour that we're dedicating to a recipe every single day? Not everybody can do that, but that doesn't have to be a barrier to shifting your eating. So here's where flexibility comes in. Think about time differently. If you decide at the beginning of the week what you and or your family are eating for the week, and you're able to prepare it, possibly take 2 hours on a Sunday to batch prep meals, so bulk meals, right, that you can break up, food that can serve multiple meals, can be served for multiple meals on multiple days, and can be transitioned in from one meal to the next. If you bulk prep in those 2 hours, then that significantly cuts down on the time you're spending every day. You got the food, you got it in the freezer or the fridge, you've got it in those cute little containers you've seen online and on TikTok that people use for meal prep. And what do you know? It takes 5 minutes every day to grab the container and get your lunch, or grab the container and heat it up for dinner. So consider meal prepping as a type of bundling. Meal planning is another type of bundling. That's where you're not necessarily making the food, but you're coming up with your menu for the week. And if you've ever tried to shift your group of recipes, right? Shift your eating from day to day, learn some new skills, get some new knowledge, and apply it to your eating, you know how time consuming that is. So if you have to find a new recipe every day and then spend the time making it, I mean, good luck. It works for some people, but not everyone. So here's where meal prepping, or rather not meal prepping, meal planning, where you plan out your menu at the beginning of the week and then you can meal prep and actually make the food. That cuts back on the time you're spending every day. And if bundling your time makes you more likely to do the activity, to expose your body to the benefit, and your mind to the benefit of doing that activity, then go for it. Bundling is better than nothing. So we've got eating down. Movement. How exactly would you bundle movement? So, technically, it's very beneficial to move quite a bit every day. Even if you're not doing formal exercise every day, most research suggests it's better not to spend the day or most days, very sedentary, and then save up all of your movement for just one day, right? Hopefully, you're getting that background activity in where you are standing quite a bit instead of sitting, and you are walking around quite a bit throughout the day and doing chores and just using your muscles to get that anti-inflammatory benefit, even if you aren't actively exercising. So you don't want to bundle all of your movement, but what you might do is take your exercise or your workouts. And if you really don't think that you can spend 30 minutes a day working out, or even 15, 20 minutes a day working out, maybe what you do is you spend one really hard hour working out. So technically, according to the CDC's movement guidelines, if you spent an hour and 15 minutes in vigorous intensity aerobic activity, so breathing super hard so you can't talk to a partner next to you, if you do that for an hour and 15 minutes, that meets your workout guidelines, the average person's workout guidelines for the week. So if you really cannot find time for 15 or 20 minutes a day to exercise, then aim for that 1 hour, 15 minutes, 1.5 hours, one day out of the week. Usually there's at least one day where we can build in a bit of flexibility and bundle that exercise time. The other way to think about bundling is you don't necessarily have to bundle your activity into just one day of the week. You might bundle your activity into 2 days out of the week. Maybe you have 2 days out of the week where you can spare an hour to do really hard workout. And so you spend 2 hours out of the week working out pretty hard. And you meet that basic requirement for physical activity and then some, without having to cut into what might be a really tight schedule on the other days of the week. So for sleep, bundling, the concept of bundling, and you'll see on the next slide, breaking up time doesn't work as well because for sleep, we really do need sleep to be restorative. That's where we get our biggest benefit. You want to have those 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Some people will swear they only need 6 hours of sleep to feel well rested, but you want to get whatever it is that your body needs in order to wake up well rested. And you need it every day. We kind of do need that amount every 24 hours. So it's really hard to bundle that time. But like if you think about it, then sleep is already being bundled into one big chunk of time every day. Um, Stress management could potentially be bundled. If you don't think that you can bear to do mindfulness exercises or like diaphragmatic breathing every day or multiple times a day, or if one of your stress management exercises is a skill that actually takes some time for you to learn, then maybe you don't have enough time to do that every day. So, doing it once or twice a week is better than not doing it at all. And if you have to, try bundling your time and getting all of that stress management out of the way. Again, stress management, kind of like sleep, is meant to be restorative of sorts. We experience stressors at multiple times during the day, every day. So it would be ideal to practice some version of very low cost, low commitment stress management every day. But if you really don't think that you can do it, if you've tried and it just doesn't work for you, Maybe bundling, where you spend, say, one Sunday just completely relaxing. Maybe that's the way for you to unlock the power of stress management. Something's better than nothing. So we've got, we covered blocking, we covered bundling, and now let's just briefly survey how breaking up your time, that's our third B, breaking up your time, can give you a strategic boost across our big four wellness resilience habits. So for eating, we breaking is kind of like the opposite of bundling, right? So take the examples that we just covered and turn them on their head. For eating, maybe you don't have the 2+ hours it takes to meal plan a menu for the week and then prep. But if you can reliably spend 15 to 20 minutes in preparation most days of the week, then you can prepare your meals. For some people, it really, meal prepping in advance or uh, batching, bulk prepping their meals just doesn't work. If you're one of those people, then the bundling method may not work for you for eating and preparing to eat healthily. Instead, go ahead and break up your eating time. Break up the time that you spend preparing to eat healthily. For movement, um, you can get really creative with how to bundle or break up your time with movement. We talked about how the CDC and the World Health Organization recommend a minimum of 75 minutes of vigorous intensity exercise per week for the person with average risk factors. And they recommend a minimum of 150 minutes of exercise per week if it's moderate intensity exercise, meaning that you can talk to your friend next to you while you're exercising, but you couldn't sing. You're too out of breath to sing, right? um and so breaking up your time for movement is a really creative way to get to that 75 minutes of vigorous intensity exercise or the 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise. And let's see how that looks, right? So maybe you don't feel, all right, so we'll get to 75 minutes. If you were going to exercise 7 days a week for 10 minutes each day and then 15 minutes one of those days, then you would get to your 75 minutes of exercise. But let's say for some reason that you can't imagine taking 10 minutes out of your day for really hard exercise. So if you can't imagine that, then maybe you break up your time and you spend just 1 minute to 2 minutes every hour. We'll do that. You work a ton, right? You're working 12-hour days. So for 10 of those hours, every hour on the hour, take 1 minute and get down and do some vigorous intensity exercises. I'm talking burpees. I'm talking like the most intense jumping jacks, crunches, planks, all of that, right? Put it in your 1 minute of exercise. You do that every hour on the hour for 10 hours, and suddenly, using the breaking technique, you have completed 10 minutes of vigorous intensity exercise each day. And on your final day, if you manage to get an extra 5 minutes in, then at the end of the week, you will have met your 75 minutes of vigorous intensity exercise per week as recommended by the CDC and the World Health Organization. And while it might sound ridiculous to some of you, let me tell you, I know there are other people out here who can really get down with it. The idea of exercising in small bites, taking workout snacks or exercise snacks, is empowering, right? These techniques, bundling or breaking, are meant for you to use as you need to, right? At your discretion, so that you can reach your eating, exercise, sleep, and stress management goals and create a better life for yourself. So don't feel silly bundling or breaking your time up across these different activities. Just do what you have to do. I mean, this is a life and death issue when you think about the impact that these lifestyle habits have on our disease risk over the course of our lives. The ability to prevent disability and suffering, and in some cases premature death. I don't mind feeling silly and exercising really hard for 1 minute out of every hour for a few hours a day, every day, if it means that I'm going to live a higher quality life, or that I have a better shot at living a higher quality life and for a longer period of time, because we are still just talking about probability. Now, breaking up sleep, as we said before, doesn't work all that well. Bundling sleep, um, the bundling of sleep is actually natural. We bundle it into our 7 to 9 hours that our body needs, whatever our body needs to feel well rested after we wake up. And we kind of do that every day. But so I wouldn't recommend breaking up that big chunk of restorative sleep time. But what you might consider is taking mini naps throughout the day. If you find yourself doing really hard work physically or mentally and beginning to feel much more tired, sometimes a 15 to 30-minute nap is all you need to feel powered up again. And those naps can be really helpful, even if your chunk of sleep, your overnight sleep, was restorative and you awakened with no daytime fatigue. You felt well rested in the morning and you just happened to have a really exhausting life. Same goes for stress management. It may actually be more beneficial to break up our stress management exercises so that we can utilize them in the course of 1 minute, 5 minutes. Take again these little bites, these little snacks of stress management when needed, as opposed to waiting for a specific day or a specific time of the day to relieve ourselves of our stressors. So remember these 3 B's. Block your time that matters to you. Block out time for the activity that you prioritize, just like you block out time for every other important activity in your life. If you can't dedicate regular, frequent time to an activity, try bundling your time for that activity into one discrete chunk. If you can't manage to bundle your time, you don't have time for that, your schedule isn't flexible enough for that, then go ahead and break your activities up into smaller, more manageable time chunks. And of course, the breaking strategy for wellness practices works for some practices really well, but as we said, for sleep, not so much. All right, guys, we will talk next week. Keep on hanging in there. So proud of all that you've done. I'll see you all later.